Hello. So we're going through a bit of a shift today that feels quite important, so I thought I'd share it. We have Mercury, the planet of the mind, communication, the way we think, the way we perceive, the way we understand our reality and ourselves. It's going into Aries and it's coming out of Pisces, which feels like quite a big shift because Mercury in Pisces would be, a little bit more dreamy, not knowing what's real, what's not, what's illusion, what's fact, what's fantasy, a bit like kind of swimming in the ocean in our minds, in a way, which is really good on some levels, but I think that it's hard to know what's going on, I think, with Mercury in Pisces. And so going into Aries, Mercury in Aries kind of brings a sense of, assertion, like asserting our opinions, independent thinking, making quick decisions, um, possibly getting a bit angry over what we come up with, like communicating in an assertive and even possibly aggressive way. Because Aries does, rule anger as well. But also, there's a sense of us being maybe a little bit braver about our opinions, about speaking up, about communicating, about voicing things. It could also mean that we get into fights over this, as a lot of people have got some very strong opinions at the moment, and we could be quite forceful in doing, in saying what we think. So there is the potential for some combativeness around our communication, but in the same token, the feeling that people might actually have the courage to speak up about certain things. So that's quite helpful. Um, so in the meantime, as Mercury will be going through Aries for the next month, or not quite the next month, but yeah, for most of the month. And in the meantime, it will be hitting a few other planets, making aspects to a few other planets. So these dates feel kind of significant. Firstly, Mercury in Aries will be forming a square to the nodes of the moon, and that's on Monday the 13th. And that feels important because the nodes represent our destiny, our collective and personal destiny. And so it could be that some information comes to light that affects us on some kind of a deep level and helps us to grow. It could also be that we gain some kind of understanding that's important of some description. The nodes of the moon are in Cancer and Capricorn. The north node is in Cancer and then the south node is in Capricorn. So it could be that we gain some information that helps us move towards that Cancer North Node of kind of taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, nurturing ourselves, moving towards more of a kind of a matriarchal system and away from the patriarchal system of, the more negative aspects of that, such as greed and corruption and power, you know. So this could be significant. Whenever the nodes are involved, it is very much to do with our destiny, as I said, both personally and collectively. Then we have Mercury is then going to be literally conjunct Chiron, the wounded healer, in Aries on the 15th. And Chiron is, I guess, I'm seeing it in a way as the virus itself in this situation, the collective illness, the collective wounds, So it could be that with Mercury next to Chiron, that we could gain some more understanding of it on some level, or some information could come to the light, or people might be in Aries a little bit more forthright about speaking up about it. So in the meantime, there's another feeling with Chiron the wounded healer, and that is that it could be that things are said that are quite hurtful, or could kind of trigger us somewhat in some way, or we could all say things that or hear things that are triggering. So that's something to bear in mind during that time. And then we've got Mercury forming a nice sextile to Mars and Venus. So Venus on one side and Mars on the other. And all month long, Mars and Venus are forming a really nice aspect to each other, a trine aspect. We've got Venus in Gemini, And that is kind of gives this sense of us all communicating between each other. Of course, this can be gossip and rumor as well. You know, the Venus in Gemini definitely brings that potential. But there is a sense of us kind of like sharing information between each other, sharing it with our loved ones and informing each other. And that is forming a nice aspect to Mars in Aquarius, this sense of standing up for our liberty, for our freedom, for our rights as human beings, for human rights, for humanity, and potentially getting angry about whatever rights have been taken away from us or could be taken away from us in the future. So there is a sense that this shared information is helping us to kind of, you know, there's a sense of us, the people standing up a little bit more and getting a little bit angry about their rights. And then, so Mercury forming a nice sextile to both of these two feels like an important time as well, in terms of shared information, in terms of people standing up and speaking out on some level. So that is the 18th, 19th and 20th of April. That's when it'll be kind of playing with those two. So the last dates that are important, and they do feel quite important, because Mercury will be forming a square aspect to Pluto in Capricorn on the 25th of April, and then Jupiter in Capricorn on the 26th of April. And this feels important because Pluto in Capricorn is slowly kind of exposing the rot of this society, the rot in the corporations, in the government, in the leading the people that are in power. And this has slowly been happening in the past few years, and I think that it's kind of at an escalation point at this point. And Pluto is power and also is transformation. So there's a sense with Mercury forming a square to it, is one potentially that we may, you know, people may kind of speak up about what they have uncovered about whatever's going on in the world, whatever's going on with the power structures. It could be on the other side of things that the power structures themselves, or the shadow side of that, could you know, have an adverse effect on the way we think. They could kind of force some kind of views or force us to think in a certain way. There's also the potential for kind of, I suppose, manipulation through thought, kind of mind control kind of stuff. There's also the potential for obsessive thought. Pluto and Mercury will do that, kind of where you just get completely fixated on a particular idea. So that is Pluto and Mercury, and then Mercury and Jupiter the day after, and which will be happening, you know, for that the day before as well. It may be to do with kind of people really being very vocal about their beliefs, and a kind of a searching for the truth, and speaking up and being brave enough to kind of speak up about the truth, an exposure of the truth on some level, digging beneath the surface, Pluto, Mercury, to try and find what's really going on, and having the bravery, Mercury in Aries, to kind of speak up. And so, yeah, I think that this shift into Aries is quite significant with regard to Mercury. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the month. So, okay, I hope this is helpful in some way. Lots of love. Bye.